How's you guys?
Mukai.
No, it is really my pleasure to have some time with you. And before we go deeper into the conversation, I would just like to tell the viewers who CD is, but I won't go deeper into it. You know, Kirata Hore, we are not reading somebody's obituary. That's why you are on this program with us to tell us more about yourself. But really, from my side and from the Dreams Made Possible team, we are so honored to have you. And TD is a senior lecturer and head of department, business management and entrepreneurship at the University of Pretoria's Gordon Institute of Science, which most of us know as GIBS. You've got more than 15 years experience lecturing in various higher academic institutions. But one of the things that really would like to unpack with you is your academic journey, and most importantly, your interest in the entrepreneurship journey, because that, I think, it's something that is very, very important that will benefit somebody who's sitting at home and who will take a leaf out of your book to create their own journey. So, but before we get into that space, let's just try to understand, how was it like growing up? How was CD like growing up? Or were you one of these children that other parents would say, hey, be like that child, you know?
Oh, wow. Right. Oh, so growing up, you will be surprised. I grew up as an introvert, never being loud, always in my corner. Most of the friends that I had were the friends from school in the class. So it means, I'm done. I go home. And it means if it's weekend, I'm done. I'm on my own, and then I'll see friends again on Monday and so forth. So I was that person who's never had friends at home, but friends at school. We are in the same class, and then we share the same subject and so forth. And most of my friends were the people that I would study with. And so we're friends because we studied together. We're friends because you better than me, so I want you to train me. And now you want something from me, and then I'm going to help you. So that's how the friendship was. And I grew up in a small town in Virginia, Free State. I'm a middle child. Used to call myself Samain Chwe when I was sandwich.
Yeah.
Did you see the brown bread on the other side? Me, I get this tomato in the middle. So I've got my sister, and I've got my younger brother who's late now. And and I'm that child that I was told to go to school. I would say Stotu because every time the teacher leaves the class, I'll be in the front teaching. So when this mem thing is from primary school, high school, and then I took it further. I never thought I would be a lecturer, but I always knew I wanted to be a mem or a nurse. But then I figured and found out growing up, Kuti, nurses deal with blood. And I was like, okay, no. So I think I'm clear. No nursing for me, ma'am for me, especially at the time, the environment, the context was saying either you are a nurse, you are a teacher, or a police officer. So for me, it was those two because I didn't want to deal with guns and everything. And then I found out that no, nurses is blood. I'm like, okay, then I'm clear. I'm going to be a ma'am. And so I didn't know anything about higher education. I didn't know anything about lecturing, nothing. And so, but when I finished my matric, then I went to the university, I didn't have money. So I applied for NSFAS. So I studied through NSFAS until I finished my first degree, which is HR, human resource, and couldn't get a job. Then I thought to myself, I'm not going to just sit here and be sorry for myself. Then I went back and got a bursary then and a scholarship at the same time. Then I did my honors because, again, I couldn't get a job in HR. At the time, it was, I'll tell you when, 2005, 2004, 2005, whereby people are not getting, majority of us blacks actually at the time, HR was a thing. whether it's degree, whether it's diploma, whether it's certificate. So most of the people are working in HR with certificates, and I come with my degree, and it's like, my sister, are you sure? Are you sure? And I'm like, okay, so if there's no market for me, go back to school. So I went back to school, and I was applying again, and I did my honors in marketing. So, and I got a bursary. But then, when you have your government bursary, it says you need to come back and serve afterwards. So when I finish my honors, then I go back to them and say, hey guys, you remember you gave me the bursary, so I'm here to serve. They're like, there's no space for you. So I continued applying for opening whatever the advertisement in government departments. And then I went to them and say, Batum, I have to serve, to give back. I'm not getting a job. I'm your bursary holder. What do I do? And then they said, whenever you apply on the Z83,
83.
Yes, always can say that you are a bursary holder. It doesn't matter how much I said that I couldn't get a job. And I'm fine. Then I'm doing my honors, and I then worked at ABSA as a teller. So here's the story. Just let's go back. And as a young child, so I always worked in my life. I started working at the age of 14 because I grew up in a child-headed family whereby I was the head of the family. So I have to take care of my brother because my sister grew up at my father's house. So I had to take care of my brother. My mom was an alcoholic. So now I've always been studying and working at the same time. So when I got to university, I'm studying with NSFAS. It's not enough. So I had to get a job. I worked at Checkers. I worked at ShopRite. I worked at Pick and Pay to substantiate the income, because now I have to also send money at home for my brother and to help my grandmother at the time, who was earning 400 Rand as the pension fund, right? So I've been working. Then when I got my honors, when I got the bursary and the scholarship for the honors, I'm like, okay, now Gitoba's Kotan. No more work for me, full-time studying. Little did I know that my mind worked in a way that I have to do many things at the same time. If you do one thing and you think you're going to focus on that, then I went into depression without being aware. So I went to see the psychologist because something was wrong. And then the psychologist said to me, get a job. That was how it was going to help me. So I'm doing my honors, applied for a job, a teller position at ABSA, and I got it. And so I'm doing my honors and I'm doing ABSA.
Can I interject there? And we'll come back just now to the story about ABSA, because for me, you said something very, very fundamental. And I would not like the viewer to miss the importance of what you said. And for me, the learning out of what you said. You said your mother was an alcoholic, your sister was staying with another, and then at 14, you had to do something. And for me, the reason why is powerful. I always say I was influenced by Stephen Covey's works in my own development. And he always talked about us not being the product of our environments, but the product of our decisions, and really I want to acknowledge you for that, because my question, I don't even have a question, because you answered yourself by saying even under those circumstances you didn't sit at the corner and feel sorry for yourself, and probably it was not easy, but you went out to Checkers, to Pick and Pay, and work for yourself. So I wanted to acknowledge that before I forget and before we get into the conversation. Thank you.
Okay. No, truly it wasn't easy at all. And so I think also the lesson there, maybe going back, is to show the young ones today, whom we have above 60% unemployment rate, youth today, because we don't have, we complain more than we want to acknowledge, to say, because when you leave South Africa, you find that in the situation that we find ourselves in South Africa, we are still better off. So I think that is the most thing that we need to acknowledge and say, we might be going, any family has problems, but as a South Africa, as a family, we are better off compared to other countries. And we need to acknowledge that. And again, now that you don't have, what do you do? And I know somebody might come and say, you don't understand. You know, we now the product of apartheid and we can't because of the situation. I'm the product of apartheid. And yes, we don't deal with situations the same way. But yes, as you said, you can't sit at the corner and say, so what? So move away from the corner and see the world in a different way and do something. The more you do, the more people will recognize and see and want to help.
Okay, great. We are now at ABSA.
So we moved to ABSA, and then I'm working as a teller at ABSA, and I'm doing my honors in marketing. So when I was doing my junior degree, because I told I was working in these retail stores, so I would attend the evening classes. University of Free State has your day classes for not full-time students. It has the evening classes for the working people. I registered as a full-time student, but I had to find a way to say I need to be in class. So I will attend the evening classes. So when I was now doing my honors, it was the evening classes that I'm used to. Then during the day, I'm working full time as a teller. In the evening classes, I do my I go to my classes, your honors, and then from 10 to 2 a.m., I had a small hustle called a hairdresser. So ever since first year to honors, then I would do hair. And I had clients who would be waiting for me. They knew that I can't do anything in your hair during the day. I can't do anything before 10 p.m. because I'm in class. So from 10 to 2, it was the time for my hustle. Or sometime 10 to 3 o'clock in the morning. It's time for my hustles, and it was on campus. I was staying on campus. So students are waiting, my clients are in line, and I had a very busy schedule at night. When you wanted to see me at night, I'm like, I'm not available. Like, what do you do? I mean, really? So that was time for my hustle. And that is another way I would use to compensate my income, that I could live like a normal person, buy myself clothes, buy textbooks. Mostly, I didn't care about clothes. I cared about textbooks. I cared about my academic work more than anything else. So when I was studying, I only had 4 t-shirts, and those t-shirts and 1 jean. So those t-shirts were free. You know, when your Vodacom come to, or any other company come to campus and they give free t-shirts, I'll be the first to attend because I need a t-shirt to go to class. So that's how I started. Never had fancy stuff whatsoever, but I would wear 1 jean and the t-shirts.
Where does that come from, Siri, if I may ask? Because most of young people, we are swallowed by peer pressure, the common term. We spoke about your family situation, and I don't want to assume that comes from there. I just want to hear from the horse's mouth, as we would metaphorically say. I would like to call it bravery. Where did that come from? Where you say, you know what? It's one pair of jeans, it's 40 shirts, whether it's Vodacom or whatever, I am steering ahead towards my goals.
Okay, so when life was tough back at home, my grandmother raised me from a distance. So we were not staying with her, but she would come and every time she had some words of wisdom to say, to us. So one day she said to me, Mdanam, you can see, Guti, it's tough. And I'm not going to lie to you and say it's going to be better anytime soon. The only way for you to get out of this situation is to go to school. So go to school. And as I continue going to school, I had a very wonderful teacher, Memas Khalo, in high school. So she's still there. She's retired now. And once in a while, when I go back home, I still go and see her. And she said to me when I was at the university, when you are there, don't look at who's doing what. Remember why you are there. And remember, you when now your situation is different, because if you don't pass, you're not going to get another loan to go to school. So go there, do your work, and don't think and focus on who's wearing what. What you have, go to school, because you know in the end you will reap the reward. And so these two women continued making this noise in my head to say the only situation is to go to school. And when you are there, put on the work clubs, you know, the work clubs, the horses things. Put on the work clubs, go forward, and focus on your goal, which is to finish the school and see. And remember now, what our parents is finish the school and go and get a job. That was that. But then, how do I finish the school? Sometimes I go to bed without eating, and you go to, you know, the situation at the university, you go to class, you're hungry, so I need to do something. And as fast is not enough. So that's when I then said, get a job. And still, because I was working in these retail stores, not as the employee, but as a promoter in the stores, the money is not enough. And sometimes it comes after 3 months. It depends on how long the promotion is going to take. So then I had to come up with something. Then I started this hustle, which I learned. My aunt is the one that taught me how to do the hair. So I thought, that's the thing I know, and that's what I'm going to use to make money. And for 4 years at the university, that was my side hustle, my salon.
Wow. No, thanks. And thanks to the grandmother. And thanks again to you for listening, because you find a lot of people who, when we watch I Blew It, for example, and I'm just speaking that because it's in the face of many people. People would come to say, but use your money like this. And people just close their eyes. But the fact that you gave yourself permission to listen and put it into practice put you here today where you are Dr. Matshediso Mathibe. And the many.
Yes, that is so true.
You complete you work at ABSA, and then you gain the experience there. Where does it take you from there?
Okay, so while I'm still working at ABSA and complete my honors, but here's the thing. One day when I was sitting in my honors class, I was doing international marketing, and one professor who was very good, for me, the way he was teaching the course, no textbook, no notes. He was a great storyteller, I would say, that professor. And Professor Van der Merwe, it was his last days, he was about to retire. But the way he was teaching, I thought to myself, I want to be like him. Right? And so I followed him. I was always in his class. And let me tell you something. When I got to university, up until I finished my honors, I've never answered a question in the class. Never. They would ask me, I was like, no, I don't know it, or no, I don't want to answer. They're like, you don't want to try? I'm like, Two things. As I said, I was an introvert.
Yeah.
I still am. So, yeah. Two, I'm from a township school. I speak English in an accent, and my English is not perfect at the time. And so you are go university with people from private schools, they speak excellent English, and you're thinking, I know the answer, but how I'm going to answer, it's going to be different with an accent. I won't pronounce the words correctly, and look at how full is the class, and I don't want to just come and be something. So no, I won't do that. And now that I have this thing that I want to be like this professor, it says I have to teach. Okay. And immediately when I finished my honors, I went to the Department of Business Management at University of Free State. Here's my CV. And I'm still working with ABSA, remember? Here's my CV. If you're looking for anybody to teach, I'm here. One thing that I didn't ask was, Professor, I really like your style of teaching. How do you do it? How long did it take you to get here? I did not ask. I just said I want to be like him. So I sent my CV. A month later, literally a month later, in April, I got a call. Yeah, ma'am, you gave us a CV and said you want to lecture. Are you still interested? I'm like, yes. And they said, come. At the time, I was on tea break. at work. And I told my manager at the time, I need to get to the university. I'm coming back. Did I say what? Right? So she knows I'm coming back. So I got to the university and they said, here's the textbook, here's the laptop. You're teaching next week. Or you're teaching tomorrow. Hamba. Hebana. Okay, I did honors, and I never answered a question in the class, and I've never presented anything. How do I do this? They said, figure it out. You've got honors. You're going to teach first year business management. Yeah, but how? So I started 2007. So I taught Vista University. It's University of Free State in the township right now, in Bloemfontein. So Vista, they said, okay.
Undergraduate city.
Oh, nice. So I taught Vista final years. I taught services marketing. And it was a small group at the time. I thought they said, let's start with one person, with few group, right? Smaller than a cohort. So it was smaller than a cohort. They were Black. And they were speaking Xhosa, Zulu, Sotho in the class. And I know the languages. So it was comfortable for me 2007. And
so let me just for clarity, that is now the first stint after University of the Free State said go like
yes, they gave me, and then I had to call my manager and say, I'm not coming back.
Oh, yes.
I had to call her and say, I'm not coming back. Actually, I thought I was coming for an interview here, but I'm starting tomorrow, right? So I need to go and prepare. And it was easy to teach Vista because you can always throw in your Sesotho, you can in, your Vaneg, and it was fine. But then the next year, January, remember I was actually called for first year. And if you know University of Free State, there's a venue called Stabilis One. At the time, it was the biggest venue on campus. In its capacity is 800 students. And all the faculties, all the department, doesn't matter what you're studying, the fact that you're studying at University of Free State, your first year, you need to do business management. And first years are excited. It's first year university, first class, they want to be there. And when it's in its fullest capacity, with everybody sitting on the stairs and everywhere, it's 1,200 students in the room. And I was this tiny.
Yeah.
I'm this tiny, and I struggle with English. And people who want to watch this one, they stayed with me on campus, they will tell you, I was bad with English, very bad. So, and now I want to lecture at University of Free State, really. And I remember my first year. So there's this podium kind of thing in Stabilis One, and everybody's sitting there. And next to me is this big, bold African student with those, or when the beer. So yeah, and I'm looking at him. I'm looking at the stature. Inside me, I'm like, I feel like I want to disappear. You know the brie when it opened, and then me, I wanted to get in. I was like, what did I get myself into? And my first class literally took 10 minutes. I was done. And I asked them any questions. I knew they were going to say no. And they said no. I'm like, I'll see you next week.
And the 10 minutes was not deliberate. It was just you going through imposter syndrome, through fear, all of those things. And this big person
do this. Did do this. And you know, Maya Angelou says, when you don't know, so when you know better, do better until you know. Do better until you know better. Do something until you know better. And when you know better, do your best. So at the time, I was just pushing, just to do something, just pushing because I said I want to be there. And I didn't time it to say 10 minutes, but gone, and I was done. And but now, I think
if I may, please don't forget your line of thought. You said something fundamental about not having asked the lecturer, how does he do it? And I wanted to understand what was the context of you thinking of that before I even fill the gap for myself.
I think sometimes you see somebody doing something, and it's always important to engage with the people, with the person. Simon Sinek says people buy the why, not the what. So it's always important to speak to Budaki and say, why are you doing this program? How did you start? How do you do it? So that when you, it might be interesting to you as you listen to the story, then you can decide, is this for me or is it not for me? So sometimes then for me is I could have asked him, how did you do it? And so that I'm prepared emotionally and psychologically to say, I know he told me it's never easy, but this is what I'm going to go through. I have an idea. And now that I did not do my due diligence, I did not do my homework, and now I'm thrown in the deep, I can't even swim. What do I do? So that was the whole point. And that's what happened to me in my first year, because now 10 minutes, I'm gone. And that thing have continued for about 4 weeks, where the students, they would just come in, they see it's me, and then they go, because why are we here to waste our time? We're going to be here for 10 minutes and. But then something said to me one day sitting, I'm like, you know what, Sidi? You never applied for this job. You were never headhunted. You went to the university and said you want this, and they gave it to you. And you went, you said you want this, and they gave it to you. They could have given to someone else. They gave it to you because they saw the push, the passion in you to come and want this. They're like, who's this? Maybe they've never experienced something like that to anybody like me with no experience whatsoever. Let's see what she has. And inside me, I knew that I know I can do this. I know the content. And teaching is not something that I've been doing it high school. I've been doing it primary school. So being in the front is not a problem. So I'm aware that I'm doing this because I'm scared to speak. That was the main thing. I'm scared to speak. They're going to judge me. They're going to tell, and the student for that matter, I'm scared of the student forgetting again my position in the room. I hold the space. I have the control. But somehow I had forgotten that because of lack of confidence to say they better than me. No, nobody's better than anybody in the room. I just have the control, and I need to remember that and reclaim it. And on the 4th week, I remembered that. And I remember going to the class, and when I entered, they were about to leave, and I'm like, hey, stop, this is my class. They were like, whoa. Okay. Wow. Then I said, you're going to sit and you're going to listen to me. First of all, I reclaimed the control back. Then I said to them, listen, guys, we're here to work. You need to know business, to learn business management, and I need to give it to you. So here's what's going to happen. Because now I get it outside, you even hearing the noise. I still stay on campus, by the way. Yeah. And I still have my other students on campus in the same hostel that they were first years with me. And now they're in my class. And they know I'm bad with English. So there's this noise outside that say, that she thinks she's going to do it. And I'm hearing all these things, and they just push me down. And now I had to remember my 2 women who said to me, put on the oorklap and go forward. So then I thought to myself, close your ears and don't listen to the noise. Remember why you're here. And then I went to class, and I told them, guys, we're going to work like this. Before I said the rules, I'm going to give you two minutes. Those who want to leave, please leave. And those who want to stay, we can work. Few of them left. The rest, I think they wanted to stay and see who's this new team? Yeah. What is she bringing? Where is this bravery coming from? Right? And then they stayed. And it was nice because when they stayed, I said to them, guys, there's an issue here. So I struggle with the language, the English, but I know business. You speak the language perfectly so, but you don't know business management. So you and I are going to teach each other. So I'm going to teach you business. You're going to teach me the language. Wherever I go wrong, nobody's going to laugh anybody. You're going to correct me in a wonderful, respectful manner. And I will teach you in a way that you will never forget. And from there, the rest is history.
Wow, that was powerful, I must say. And it talks to the whole issue of mutuality. And you mentioned, you didn't use the word mutuality earlier, but the give take, because it can never be one way. And thanks for stepping into your truth and taking that authority.
I had to.
Wow.
I had to.
Was that now the? Huh?
I want to say I had to, because now every time they come to class, the students, when they leave that class, they're not going anywhere. They go back to the office complaining. And the fact, what came to me was the fact that the management is not taking this seriously. They're not bringing me on board. It means they see something in me. I have to give it to them, really. And I have to step up. So that's what I did.
Wow. So was that the start, if we might say, of you entering into the academic space? If not, if I remember well, didn't you, what is the word? Didn't you take a detour elsewhere and then came back into the academics? Or that was the start now of the academics?
Yeah, so that was the start. So I said bye-bye to my banking and as a teller, and then now that was the start. And so what I did now, I went to study, back to studying and say, how do you teach? And how do you teach a big class? How do you control class? How do you design the assessment? So I did a course on teaching and learning, and designing assessments, handling your big classes, all those teaching methodology and stuff. That's what I did, to say, now I need to know how to do this. So I did that. And to empower myself. And so now that you are in academia, at the time they would take you to lecture honors level, but you need to go have one up. Yes. And now they take you masters right now. So I had to go back and study. And so what am I going to study? I mean, I know HR. And
I must get in there before they change to PhD now, so long as I have a chance.
Exactly. I did HR, and now I did my honors in marketing, and I'm in the business management department. So one thing that I knew was, coming from the township, growing up in a shack, and I know the life, and I know I want to go back and do something for previously disadvantaged, because sometimes you find that they are being written off. But with people like me, who I was able to come out, I know there's potential there. I know there's so much that can be taken out of the township area environment, that can be taken out of the previously disadvantaged. So I know I want to do something, but something that looked like what? I had to figure that out. So I went to a department, developmental studies at University of Free State. Then I said, I want to do something, but I'm not sure what. And the professor there said to me, because you're in the business management, I would say look at entrepreneurship, but within the township space. So what I did then, I went to study my master's, looking at the business support and government policies for informal businesses in the township. And for me, I would say it's disadvantaged because they're informal, they're in the township, and we have policies that are so wonderful for business, for entrepreneurship in our country. But then I had to, I was looking at how, I was looking at how these policies are supporting the small businesses. I was looking at, again, do the informal businesses in the township know about these policies? Do they know about the support that is available to them? And is there a link between the two? And then I found no. We have beautiful policies, but they are only being addressing to the elites. And by elites, I mean those who know, who can speak Xhosa, those who are closer to. But the ones down there on the floor, on the ground, are still being neglected. And that is what said to me, there's much that needs to be done. And so I'm studying my master's and I'm working at University of Free State on a yearly contract, right?
Yes.
At the end of the year, it has to be renewed. So you don't know where you're sitting. And do I need to continue with my PhD? Do I stay with, let me wait and find a permanent job before I continue? But at the time, then I had to think, I could graduate my master's, but I had to think of the next level. But the next level wasn't clear. As I tell you, every year my contract is renewed.
Yes.
So finished my master's, and out of my master's, I published a paper looking at the business support for Free State businesses in the township. And now that paper, one of another work from my master's, I had to go and present it in one of the conferences in Durban. So KZN. So when I was there, met the professor who said in my presentation. So whatever I did while I was presenting, the professor was saying to me afterwards, let's have lunch. Okay. And I have lunch with the professor, and he says, so what are you doing now? I'm like, I'm looking for a job. Actually, I'm looking for a job. He's like, we've got something. Come, let's talk. And then, okay, come for an interview. And then I went for an interview, University of Pretoria. And the interview went well. And I joined University of Pretoria. So when I got there, then I realized that most of the faculty were in the entrepreneurship. Then I thought to myself, the FIFO framework is not going to work with me. Like first in, first out. Yes. So I need to find a niche where I can play in so that if anything happened, I'm still safe here. So I wanted to do my PhD in strategy, but I didn't have a supervisor because the professor that was in the strategy at the time didn't have the capacity. So I then decided, okay, outside entrepreneurship, it's strategy, and then it's international business. So I'm like, okay, I'm taking international business, but what in the international business? Still again, it's always about what can I do for previously disadvantaged. So to me, it wasn't the Temia local. It wasn't the Temia township. It wasn't the Temia entrepreneurship. It was always about previously disadvantaged, because I'm putting myself in the shoes and say, if I were to find somebody who was in my shoes, what would I do for that person? And how could I help that person? Because when I was there, I know I needed help. And I knew that I have the potential, I have the passion, I have the drive. I just needed resources. So if I could find resources for this person, what would those resources look like? So now in my PhD, it's the same picture. Then I looked at multinational enterprises that come in our country. So most of them, they focus here, Boyo Santen, your Tshwane, Pretoria, and so forth. We do have other people in South Africa. We have rural areas, we have townships, and hey, why not them? Right? So in my PhD, I looked at the marketing strategies for multinational when they market to the base of the pyramid, which is low-income consumers. Yes. What should those marketing strategies look like? Because in emerging market or at the base of the pyramid, it's all about the unity, what's in it for us. And so I looked at that to say, instead of looking and seeing people at the base or low-income consumers as consumers, change the mindset. And the literature also shows that you need to change your business model and not only look at them and see them as consumers, see them as the producers, see them as co-creators, because there's so much that you can take, what you can bring out of the low-income consumers, the low-income people, if you can see them not only as consumers, but the co-creators, the producers as well. So, and now that I did my PhD on that, so what I'm currently now doing is finding my research identity. And my research identity brings together the international business and the entrepreneurship, where I look at the informality and the township as the context, a very complex context, because we've got poverty, we've got unemployment, we've got so much inequality that is happening there. So as an entrepreneur, how do you survive? How do you thrive in these complex contexts? So that is what I'm looking. And again, how do you do business as an entrepreneur in such a context, bearing in mind the challenges that comes with it? So that is my space at the moment.
And I love it, and it gets us to the nub of it actually, because I mean, you will hear many news where we say, entrepreneurship it is vital as a vehicle for job creation, for ending poverty, a path to economic independence. And one of the things that I've also seen is that when you look at advanced economies, small and medium businesses have been at the bedrock of these countries to come up. Now, based on your research, and thanks for coming up with that vital step of saying, look at it as the people in the rural spaces or at informal centers as producers and co-creators. Are we making headwinds based on what you have seen from your research and some of the work that you do?
Are we making headwinds? What do you mean by that?
As a country, as entrepreneurs in those places, do you see that a change is happening in that space? Is it something that we can write home about?
Look, there's a lot happening. There's a lot happening in the township. There's many entrepreneurs in the township that are doing wonderful things, that are contributing, that are creating jobs, and that are so innovative. But the challenge is most of these things that are happening in the township space are happening in silos. Budak is doing that, UTD is doing that, and there's no monitoring and evaluation. So you're monitoring your own thing. I'm monitoring my own thing. And that is where the problem is. So it's not recorded. And what you see in your, what do you call it? The reports from your World Economic, your UN reports, what the stats that you see there is not the real stats. Because when you go into the township, they will tell you that, for instance, they would say South Africa entrepreneurship is like 20% or 40%. I'm just making an example. But when you go down and really research in the township in South Africa, you see that there's so much happening. And the challenge again is, as much as we've got so much entrepreneurship happening in the townships, most of it's not registered, it's informal. But that doesn't say it's not contributing and bringing back the revenue into the economy. It is. So the challenge, the question should be now, it's informal, but it's contributing into job creation. It's informal, but it's contributing into the economy. So should we formalize it or not? That is another question. But and that is where the research has to come and say, really understand the informality and say, does it worth formalizing? Does it worth not informalizing? Because one would come and say, who said I want to formalize? And one then will come and say, yeah, you should, because you're missing out on the benefits. But at the current moment, I can't answer that question to say whether they should formalize or not. But what I'm saying is, there is a lot that is happening. There's so much change. There are many improvements that are happening in the township space and in the township economy. It's just that we need monitoring and evaluation. We need a center. We need, where we can have all these things and say, you want stats, you go to that place, and then there's the stats. And this is what the real data of what's happening in, especially South African space, when it comes to entrepreneurship. But a lot is happening.
Who steers that monitoring and evaluation? Yes, I can assume that there are many players, but there must be somebody who steers that and make sure that it comes to fruition.
There has to be. So I had, this is recorded and it's not time to speak about other things, but I'll just say it's still in my heart to see. I was talking to my colleague, my co-author, Prof. Chinyamurindi to say, I think we need to come up with some sort of a center where we bring, what exactly answering your question, as to say, you want this monitoring and evaluation, go to this center and you will get anything and everything about data, entrepreneurship in South Africa, whether formal, whether informal, whether women, whether youth entrepreneurship, you will get it there and it will answer all the questions. And that is where, from that center, we could come and say, yes, there is change that we're seeing, and this is the percentage, this is the extent of change done by entrepreneurs in the township. And again, there's a research that also says that money comes into the township, but it doesn't stay, it goes back.
Correct.
So the challenge now is to how do we keep it in the township, circulating in the township. And center like that would also come up with ways through research as to this is how we can keep the money in the township to circulate in there.
There's a concept, and probably you know it, Dr. CD, called the speed of the warrior. And you and your colleague that you mentioned run with speed to do this. And really what I really like to out of your response is not to say, hey, it is the government, it is, yes, there's partnership, but you taking it upon yourself to say, as ordinary people, we've got what it takes to change the course in our townships, in our spaces where we live. And really, I like that. I can only encourage you to make sure that this really happens and it comes to fruition. So what I wanted to ask, entrepreneurship, without being academic about it, because you said there's a lot of things happening. I see some people will say, entrepreneurship is people who come up with new innovations, something that never existed, and voila, they bring something. And some people say, those should just be people who identify opportunities and make something out of those opportunities. They don't necessarily have to be innovation. So just to ensure for somebody listening, and we're speaking from the same hymn sheet, and like I said, without being academic about it. So when you look at entrepreneurship from your end and from the research, what would be a basic definition, an operational definition of what you're looking for as, or defining as entrepreneurs when you look at your research?
Just to be basic, right? So two things. I want to touch on the innovation and then I'll touch on the entrepreneurship. So there's a huge difference between invention and innovation. So if it never existed and you come up with it, it's invention. Okay. So anything that you can use outside that, it's been there, you tweak it, you amend it, you adjust it, it's innovation.
Okay.
So you had a smaller than a container of your Vaseline, and the Vaseline is finished, therefore you use that to drink water. That's innovation.
Yes.
But yeah, that's innovation, right? So entrepreneurship, on the other hand, maybe in a simple thing is to say, wherever you see an entrepreneur is somebody that always think about what's the next big thing. As in, you don't sit and say, I have this. There's a difference between a small business, a manager, and an entrepreneur. A manager says, there's a business that I need to take care of, and I need to pay the bills. I need to, you're managing this business. So you're not thinking about, I need to innovate now. I need to be creative. I need to think about how to expand this business, how to grow this business. I'm just running this business to pay the bills. It's okay. You're not an entrepreneur. The minute you sit back and say, I'm running a printing, a copy shop. Yeah, where students will come, learners will come and print their CVs, 1 page of ID. So I'm running that in the township at the corner of the police station or shops in the township. I'm running that printer shop. But here's the thing. People always come here and think about, when they come, they stand on a long queues, they get thirsty, some of them get hungry. So while I'm still printing for them, how about I sell ice cream How about I sell ice block on the side? How about I sell magunyanyana? You're thinking differently, and that makes you an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is somebody that identifies a gap or sees an opportunity and come up with the solutioning thing as to how do I solve this problem? There's a problem that was there. They used to go far distance to print. Now I brought that printing to them. But as they stand and printing, the long queues, they get thirsty, they get this and this. How about I find a solution to their thirst? And so that is the entrepreneur. Always find an opportunity. When I'm sitting here and complaining that there's no water, there's no job, and then entrepreneur says, oh, wow, what an opportunity. Let me have a smaller garden outside and see if I can find two youth who can come and manage this garden for me. That's an entrepreneur. There's a gap that you notice, there's a problem that you see, and there's an opportunity that you see, and then you'll always find an opportunity. And how do I close this gap? How do I solve this problem? That's an entrepreneur.
And I like it. You unpacked this so nicely for me. I'll call it the triad: invention, innovation, and entrepreneurship. And that talks to, for me, not a personality trait, but certain behavioral patterns that differentiate people who are entrepreneurs from those who are not entrepreneurs. But then on top of that, to support these behavioral traits that you mentioned, there must be a certain environment. And I'm not sure if your research get into that space to say, first things first, how do we support these people to be able to achieve what they are trying to bring forth? Because for me, your definition, as I said, settles the score. Let's not even get into this and this and that. There are a lot of people, as I'm speaking to you, my head is churning. Later today, I'm going to Katlehong, and every time I get into Katlehong, I see a lot of entrepreneurs, because I think the mistake that we do is to think that entrepreneurship should just bring you millions. Those are the small, medium, or whatever type of differences that you can make within your community. But going back to my question, are there structures that are put out there to support these entrepreneurs, if you're touching it on your research, or just from your observation and perspective?
Not from my research per se, but yes, as I said, there's so much that is happening in terms of entrepreneurship in the townships. There are many structures that are available from the government and the private sector to support entrepreneurship. And the awareness is what's lacking. Yes, especially when it comes to township, the awareness as to where do we find, or the message, is it going to the right people? So the message is not going across to the right people, and also the awareness. Therefore, it affects and contributes towards the awareness of entrepreneurs knowing where to find what, how to get there, and so forth. Right. So I wanted to also come back and say, you mentioned something like that says people think that entrepreneurship is all about starting a business and it's big. Entrepreneurship, you start with an idea that is existing. Idea is existing or is not existing, but you want to grow that idea as it grows, and you always think about the next big thing. So what? My business is there. So what? How do I take it further? Something like that. But it is very important to remember that entrepreneurship is not only about running a business.
Okay.
So you can learn. Somebody asked me, how do you learn entrepreneurship? Look, there's many things that you can learn entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship is all about critical thinking and problem solving. So that's, if you're studying entrepreneurship, you're learning critical thinking and problem solving.
Yeah.
That's that. So what does that say? It says, depending on your personality, we spoke about behavioral and. So you can decide, I want to start a business. You learned the principles of entrepreneurship and how to start a business. You can consult through entrepreneurship. There are businesses that are not doing so well. So you go to them with your knowledge and expertise and say, let's see your books if you do have, because most of entrepreneurs in the township, they don't have books anyway. So you work with them to bring those books on board, to work with their books, make sure that their books are up to date. And also some of them lack management skills. So you teach them management skills. So you consult with them. Very important. Some of us are not entrepreneurs, are not business owners, business runners, but you use entrepreneurial principles to be a leader in an organization.
Yeah.
So you become an entrepreneurial leader. And the only way you can be an entrepreneur is to understand that entrepreneurship is about critical thinking and problem solving. And a leader is there to solve the problem. A leader is there to think strategically and critically so. So if you are able to do that, you can apply entrepreneurship principles in that leadership space, and you will be that ethical leader that we're looking for.
Wow. That's so awesome. And just out of what you're saying, you are actually identifying opportunities that people with the relevant skills can start up something and then go and assist, because sometimes we might think that entrepreneurship is just going there and making money, but you provide a service. Like now you're talking about books. I personally know, and even myself, when I started a couple of years back, that was one of the challenges I have, just to keeping up books when I have to reconcile my stuff at the end of the tax year. I hold my head to say, wow, where did I put this and all those things? So an opportunity for someone out there who can still even do it whilst they are working, and do it on the side. And thanks, Tsidi, for helping us to understand that. Can I just go granular a bit? Because we have now spoken about entrepreneurship in the broadest terms. I would just like to go granular on the cultural aspects of entrepreneurship, age, there's gender, there's this and this background and stuff. But I would just like to focus on one of your research topics or interests, which is social entrepreneurship and specifically women. Let's talk about the challenges that you have seen and opportunities as well. I always like to balance the coin of social entrepreneurship as far as women are concerned. And I'm just asking that question because whether we agree on it or not, but I'm not saying with you, I'm just saying generally, when you listen to the public outcry out there, we know that women have been marginalized, they continue to be marginalized, and we understand the challenges and the opportunity that if we turn things around by supporting women, how things will change. And I'm not just saying this because it's Women's Month. I've been featuring women only in my podcast for this month, but I'm saying it honestly because it's something that I believe in. Okay, so what have you come across as far as social entrepreneurship and the challenges and opportunities that women can take advantage of?
When it comes to women entrepreneurship, it's not only social, right? It's both women who are for-profit, who are running for-profit businesses, and the fact that you are a woman, it makes it difficult, and difficult in two ways. One, you are a woman and you have cultural, social aspects that are affecting you in terms of whether you are a wife, you are a mother, you are a sister. And as a wife and a mother, society expects you to behave in a certain way. They expect you to be at home, to raise kids or be a wife. The minute you decide, I want to start working or I want to start my business, then it's like, wenzani? So from a family's point of view, socially, you don't get much support that is required, that is needed. On the other side, you're running a business, funders. The minute you are a woman, the assumption in some of the funders is you're running a social enterprise. You're running an NGO. This business, already they write your business off. It's not going to work. All you need is to just put the food on the table. So whether you have a great idea that can change the world, but the fact that you are a woman, you have to work twice as much to prove yourself. And that is the challenge, both from the funders and the society itself. So you're sitting here right now in the middle as to what do I do? And that is where then I will take a step back and say, instead of, yes, the main thing that challenges women entrepreneurs is funding. But wait, it's not all about funding. As I said when I was trying to explain when I was explaining entrepreneurship, to say sometimes you can do consulting in the entrepreneurship space and say, how do I help you to grow your business? How do I help you to expand your business to scale, right? So stepping back is work with what you have, right? As a woman, yes, you want funding, but what is it that you want to do? And again, if I were to give advice to women, maybe I would say, instead of keeping this business that you have or business idea and say, I can't start because I don't have funding, that mindset has to change. What is it that you want to do? And I was talking to other women and saying, let's say you want to start a cleaning business. And it's going to be a very interesting idea, good idea. So what you do is, first of all, we've got social media that is at our advantage, my women, my ladies, because start by cleaning your own house and take photos, take videos of the before and the after, put them on social media. There's a guarantee that you would find somebody who says, Matshediso, how did you do it? Please come and do mine. That's the first client. So when you get in the first client again, you take photos, that's before, and you do your cleaning, whatever the magic that you can bring in that room, and then you do voila, the after. So that's how you grow your market share. That is how you grow your profit, not your customer base. And now, when it goes to the time where you want to expand, you have paper trail, you have evidence. You can now go to the funder and say, I have started and now I'm here and I want to expand. So there is evidence that you have been doing it, and you've got, again, there's a challenge of not being able to separate between your income and your business finance. So that is where consulting comes in, to teach women entrepreneurs. I'll focus on women because it's the Women Month. To teach women entrepreneurs, especially in the informal sector, to say, how do you separate between this is your income and this is the business finance? You can't touch it. You need to find ways to pay yourself income. And everything has to be recorded. Because now, you're starting this business, you've got evidence that it's running with your own money, right? And also you've got your books. So when you go to the funder, you're saying, here's the record, I've been started doing this business, and here are my books. I pay myself salary. I don't take. If I take, I pay back. And here's the evidence. So you show the financials to say, this is what's happening. The challenge is the entrepreneurs focus more on, how do we get funding? It goes back to, the government is doing so much. They have so much in their plate right now. So we can't depend on the government. Both government and private sector has to come on board and work together. But you as an entrepreneur as well, start something and show that you have started. You just need help. Not, I've got an interesting idea. If you can give me money, I'll show you. No. And a private investor again is there to make money. So you need to show me, how am I going to get money and how soon will I get my money back? So if you can't prove that, we're still going to stay with this challenge.
So you're saying something very, very fundamental, really, about ideas, how to package them, how to sell them, and all these other skills that you have mentioned. So going back to your point about problem solving as one of the critical skills, what type of, let me ask it twofold, what type of person walks into your lecture room to study entrepreneurship? And please pardon me if I am repeating myself. How then do we cycle back all this knowledge into that ecosystem that is not able to get into the walls of GIBS to study entrepreneurship?
Interesting. I'll answer it in twofold myself as well. It's a very good question. Thank you for that. So, in my space, on my own, I do what you call communal entrepreneurship. So I partner with churches and I host workshops in the churches to say, bring all the entrepreneurs in the room. Let's see what challenges are they facing, whether you want to ideate, whether you want to understand management, whether you want to scale. Come in the room. Let's work together and let's see how I can assist in the space. So that's what I do on the side by myself. I partner with churches on that space, and I use the SDGs. Some of them want to ideate, but they don't know how. So I use Sustainable Development Goals. We have 17 of them, but sub goals are 152. Yes. So you cannot look at the SDGs and say, but I can't find the problem. So you need to look at the SDGs. My research is focused on SDG 4, 5, and 8. 4, quality education. 5, gender equality. And 8, decent work. Right? So you can go in any of the SDGs and say, and dig deeper in them, you'll find the sub goals as well to say, what is it that I can find and try to find a problem and use this to answer that problem or to solve that problem. As you solve the problem, you are being an entrepreneur, you are doing entrepreneurship in that space. So it could be mothers in the community come together, do gardening or anything, or youth in the space coming together and DJing. I'm coming with simple examples that an ordinary township individual can understand. So yeah, that's that. So that's number one, what I do. Number two, my colleague and I, Dr. Eke, we're working on a research project wanting to understand how does the university innovation bring pushback to the ecosystem. So that's a project that we are dealing with right now. And I'm going to be presenting a paper. We will be presenting a paper at the conference on that one. So we're busy collecting data as we speak, just to come up and say, what's the solution? What is it how do we now trace this, what the universities are doing in terms of promoting and supporting and encouraging entrepreneurship and pushing it back into the community, into the ecosystem, and that circle, how does it happen? So we're busy with that project right now. So at the moment, I don't have the exact answer, but very soon I will have the exact answer, and surely you will read about it somewhere because we have to publish it and say, okay, this is what has been happening. Because in that space, we're going to be interviewing the university representatives that are working in the entrepreneurship space, like your faculty, your lecturers, the university, the centers within the universities that are dealing with entrepreneurship. We're also interviewing the entrepreneurs themselves that came through our doors or through the university doors and saying, how are you doing it at the end, back in the back in the economy, back in the communities. So that circle, how does this ecosystem come together, will have an answer.
Wow. And the second part of the question was also about the type of person
that comes in the room. Okay, we've got an ordinary person that's just coming in the room. That when I say ordinary, say no entrepreneurship background whatsoever. They heard about it, and hence you would find the question of what does somebody who's studying entrepreneurship, what do you do? So you'd find that person, and you find an entrepreneur that's coming in to upskill themselves. So it's a bit of both in the room that comes in the room. And yes, you're right that especially when you push back to my master's, where you'd find that these policies are not reaching some people. So there's still an exclusion when it comes to entrepreneurial support. So how do we include everybody, every stakeholder in the economy to say you need to be part and benefit in these policies? As to one, the project I've mentioned, two, the initiative of being a communal entrepreneur consultant or activist, if you may call it, And three also is, we do have organizations. I know the United Nations Global Compact, what they have the event every year at end of the year, where they bring everyone in the room, be it a township entrepreneur, be a medium enterprise founder, owner, in the room to try and say, what are the challenges, what are the benefits, what's out there, what is it that this one, the township entrepreneur who did not know can take home, or even the medium enterprise owner one can learn from the township. So we do there's those platforms where the knowledge is brought into the room. But I think going forward, we need to have, as you said, those who are not being able to get into the GIBS walls, then we need to push it to the township. I mean, we need to partner with that's where then the partnership comes. Partner with the governments and say, local governments, and say, give us the venue, bring the entrepreneurs, because you do have the departments that are dealing with entrepreneurs themselves. So let's partner with the department and see how we can take these wonderful events, these workshops, these seminars in the township, because the challenge again, especially with an entrepreneur in the township, is how do I leave my business and come to sit in and listen to whatever information you're giving me in your seminar. So that brings also the question of your action research, your action learning. Let's go to their places. Let's teach them as they operate their businesses. Let's train them as they operate their businesses, because now, remember, sometimes they're not doing enough money, especially now with this high unemployment. So customer base surely has shrinked a bit. So how do you expect me to leave my business with this shrinked customer base that I have to come and sit? I'm going to be losing 2-3 hours of my time. I could have made so much. So instead, how do we bring these events in the township closer to them and say, bring your business. As you sell there, I'll be sitting maybe, for instance, in the stadium with my big microphone. We see all these political parties rallies with my big microphones, very loud, and teaching you while you're selling out there. Something like that. And it's just an idea that say it's possible. So the entrepreneur is learning something, but they're not losing their business. And if something really stood out, they want to understand more, you give them the basic information, you gave them the contact as to, if you need more, where to go. And I think that's going to work, because now to bring all these models, the Western models, to say you need to go to the offices and do this and this, it doesn't apply in our context. Context is very important. So because our context is different, we need to come up with different models to address the challenges that we are facing right now, which are the main three: unemployment, inequality, and the poverty. So if we're going to address those effectively, so we need to change our mindset, we need to change the models, and make the models be tailored for the context that we find ourselves, and support entrepreneurs in their own spaces.
Before we land the plane, I want to ask you about your PhD journey, just short, in a short journey, and then your role as a head of the department. But before we go there, when we speak about entrepreneurship, I've got interest in the property space as well. And, whether it's your normal renovation on stuff, TD, I once made a video on TikTok, and I got so many responses. And it's just about how we find, this individual with so much skill who walk into your yard, and they mainly are Black folk. They don't know how to charge, but the skill is theirs, and you now as and I know maybe there might be a matter of supply and demand where people are also abused as a result, but they don't charge. You charge them, but it's their craft. And the sad part is it's hand to mouth. And, when I look at that space and say, wow, how many of the families can be supported on a sustainable level if we can get that part of the informal economy right. and then I think a lot of stuff can be changed. And probably the work that you do through churches, the partnership that we're talking about with the various sectors can assist as well. And I'm just making that as an example because that is one space that is closer to me. So let me go, as we say, fasten your seat belts now. You can remove all your trays. We are about to land the plane. And as we are about to land that plane, quickly or high level, just advise, share with us your journey to, you mentioned it about presenting a paper and stuff, but what are those things that you think anyone out there should consider if they really want to go the PhD route? And maybe you'll be speaking to myself as well. I've been thinking about it forever.
That is interesting. Oh, yeah, good question. Thank you. So, first of all, PhD is a project, right? And because it's a project, it involves time, it involves money, and you need to be mentally, physically, and emotionally ready. And for it, you as a person. But again, you need to understand, ask yourself a question: why am I doing it? Do I really need it? What am I going to do with it? So this is the conversation between yourself, right? You, yourself, and you. Okay. And then now that you've answered, you really need this PhD. You are in academia, talking about myself. You are in academia, and PhD is another one up that doesn't just make you a lecturer, but you become a scholar. You become a knowledge creator. That's what you want to do. Now you need to involve your family. You haven't started, right? You need to involve your family, sit with them down, talk to them, talk with them, make them understand. I'm about to embark in this journey. And this journey involves time. There are going to be times where I'm absent while I'm present. There are going to be times where I really need you. I feel like crying. I need you there. So because it's a very, as much as it's a project, it is a journey, and a very lonely journey, that you lose anything and everything if you didn't start the right way. So your family needs to be involved. Your friends need to be involved. Tell them there's going to be a time where I won't even be able to attend the funeral. I won't be able to, you won't see me at your birthday parties, but it's only for a period of time. When I get this, then I'll come back to the economy and be reunited with you. So you need to understand why you're doing it. You need to understand the journey itself, the ups, the downs of the journey, and know that what is it that you want out of this PhD? What do you want to do about it? Then involve the family, involve the friends, because you're going to need them. You're going to need them so much. Then you do your PhD. And when you do your PhD, again, before you start, you need to understand what is it that you want to do. Nowadays, we talk about researching with impact. You don't do PhD because you want the certificate. It has to be exactly. It has to be, what is the problem? What is the challenge that your PhD has to answer the question that is going to change the lives of the society. For instance, whether it's township, whether it's academic society themselves, whether it's corporate space, but it's a society. So your PhD has to be with impact. And that is what you want to understand. So now that you know, you want to research in the township space, you want to look at the informal businesses, how women were affected by COVID and still remain resilient, and their business are still flourishing right now. Okay, so who's going to help me to walk this journey and guide me? It's very important to choose your supervisor. My PhD took me 5.5 years because of the choice of the supervisor. So my first proposal, I failed it. And the second one, I passed. And the second one, I chose the right supervisor. And it took me 2 years and I was done.
Wow.
So start by understanding yourself, and the journey. involve the family, the loved ones, and choose the right supervisor, because you have done your homework, you know what field you want to play into, why you want to be in that field, and choose the right supervisor, and the life will be okay. I'm not saying easy, but okay, you can handle it.
Yeah.
And that's how.
No, thank you for that. Maybe I might start the conversations here after. So lastly, congratulations once more for your promotion as head of the department. Quickly, what does it take to be a head of the department, and what is the day in the life of a head of department?
A lot of admin, but it's fine. Thank you for that. It's a very new space for me. I'm still trying to find my feet. So you still do what you are supposed to be doing. It's just it's now extra admin for you. I still teach. I still do my research. I still do community service, and I still need to be collegial in the department, like work with the team, work with the colleagues, and I still need to push my projects that I've been pushing. It's just added in as admin in terms of meetings, in terms of now I'm heading a team of 6. And so it's not only my I always had my project. These are my projects, that's how they're gonna go. But now the edit is I also need to see my team as to they're doing okay with their own projects as well. So that's the edit part, because now that's the edit part. And I don't think I give it now. It's another topic to say in terms of management. There's macromanagement, there's a normal one that is healthy, that's not going to bring you stress. So for me is oversee what they're doing. They're adults, they've been doing it anyway, so it's just to that's more than guiding over. You're okay, you need my push, you need my support. That's how I see it. But
wow, you have shot so many nuggets, and it won't be dreams made possible if we say, Dr. Matshediso Mathibe, looking at all your life up to now, the last wish on your deathbed, and it's a Life 101 conversation. No, you're not going anywhere, don't worry. Life 101 advice that you need to give somebody. What would you say?
So I'm on my deathbed and I'm about to go. So you need to, somebody else tell somebody to try and fail and never fail to try.
You know what?
That's what I'm going to tell you.
You are so awesome. And just your story, I believe that it will change somebody. So viewers at home, let's think about this. From a family that has just challenges like any other one, to moving into an environment where you think that I do not have what it takes to be here. I do not have the clothes to show up to my friends. To a point where you say, I do not command the Queen's language well, but I'm prepared to stand in front of students who might know better than me. And in that way, start to conquer your fear and then reclaim your authority to become the head of a department. If Dr. Siri can do it, you also can do it. Until we meet in the next episode, thank you so much.